Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving prime minister, has become a defining figure in the nation's modern history. Over decades, he has shaped Israeli politics with his uncompromising stance on security, his complex relationship with the United States, and his ability to navigate the turbulent waters of Middle Eastern diplomacy. Netanyahu's leadership style is marked by a blend of charisma, controversy, and resilience, making him both a revered and divisive figure at home and abroad. His tenure has seen Israel through wars, peace talks, and shifting alliances, and his decisions have left a lasting imprint on the region's political landscape. On the world stage, Netanyahu is known for his forceful rhetoric and his relentless advocacy for Israel's interests. He has forged alliances with powerful nations, but has also clashed with global leaders over issues ranging from Iran's nuclear ambitions to the future of the Palestinian territories. His presence at international summits is often met with both respect and skepticism, reflecting the deep divisions his policies inspire. On September 26, 2025, Netanyahu took the stage at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, facing a world that, in his view, was increasingly hostile to Israel. The Grand Hall, with its iconic green marble backdrop, was filled with anticipation and tension. Netanyahu's speech was not just another address, it was a direct response to a rapidly changing international climate, one that he believed threatened Israel's security and legitimacy. The immediate catalyst for his address was the recent recognition of Palestine as a sovereign state by several key Western nations. This diplomatic shift sent shockwaves through Israel's government, and Netanyahu saw it as a profound betrayal by countries he once considered allies. The move was celebrated by Palestinians and their supporters, but for Netanyahu it represented a dangerous precedent, one that could undermine Israel's position on the world stage and embolden its adversaries. In his speech, Netanyahu delivered a passionate and, at times, defiant indictment of the international community. He accused world leaders of turning a blind eye to the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and of unfairly singling out Israel for criticism, especially in light of the ongoing violence in Gaza. As protests erupted outside the UN and criticism mounted in the global press, Netanyahu's words resonated with his supporters but further alienated his critics. The atmosphere inside the assembly hall was electric and fraught with tension. As Netanyahu spoke, several delegations stood up and walked out in protest, leaving rows of empty seats behind. This dramatic gesture underscored Israel's growing isolation on the world stage and highlighted the deep divisions within the international community over the path to peace in the Middle East. In the chapters ahead, we will delve into the layers of Netanyahu's controversial speech, examining the historical context, the global reactions, and the far-reaching implications for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This moment at the United Nations was more than just a speech. It was a reflection of a world divided, and a leader determined to defend his nation's place within it. Netanyahu's UN speech was a moral rebuke to Western allies, a powerful and direct message that resonated across the international community, condemning their recognition of Palestine as a grave error. He emphasized that such recognition undermined the peace process and emboldened extremist factions. He argued this move rewarded terror, sending a dangerous signal globally. Netanyahu stressed that rewarding violence and terror with political legitimacy was a perilous path. By naming countries like France and the UK, he highlighted the severity of the diplomatic rupture. He pointed out that these nations, by recognizing Palestine, were inadvertently supporting a narrative that could destabilize the region further. This public condemnation warned of consequences and demonstrated strong leadership to his domestic audience. Netanyahu's speech was not just a message to the world but also a reassurance to the Israeli people that their leadership was unwavering. Netanyahu's message was clear. Israel would not be swayed by global opinion when its security was at stake. He made it evident that Israel's right to defend itself was non-negotiable and that the nation would take whatever steps necessary to ensure its safety. His speech reinforced his image as a staunch protector of Israel. Netanyahu's rhetoric was aimed at solidifying his position as a leader who prioritizes the security and sovereignty of his nation above all else. It was a declaration of defiance, asserting Israel's right to defend itself. The speech served as a reminder to the international community that Israel would stand firm in the face of adversity and continue to protect its people and its borders with unwavering resolve. Netanyahu argued that recognizing Palestine rewarded mass murder, linking it to the October 7th attacks. He claimed this recognition was a consequence of violence, not a peace-building initiative. Netanyahu accused the media and protests of pressuring governments into appeasement. His narrative painted a world aligned against Israel, justifying its defiant stance. To truly understand Netanyahu's recent speech, it's essential to place it within the broader context of the ongoing Gaza war, a conflict that has now entered its third year and shows little sign of resolution. The war has become a defining issue for both Israel and the Palestinian territories, shaping political discourse, daily life, and international relations in profound ways. The current phase of violence was ignited by the unprecedented Hamas attack on October 7, 2023, which resulted in significant Israeli casualties and hostages. In response, Israel launched a massive and sustained military campaign against Gaza, marked by relentless airstrikes, ground incursions, and a blockade that has severely restricted the movement of people and goods. The humanitarian consequences have been devastating. Thousands of civilians have been killed or injured, and much of Gaza's infrastructure lies in ruins. The ongoing siege has led to acute shortages of food, water, and medical supplies, sparking a global outcry. International organizations and human rights groups have repeatedly condemned the scale of destruction and the suffering of ordinary people, further isolating Israel on the world stage. In response to the prolonged conflict and the lack of progress toward peace, several Western nations have taken the significant step of formally recognizing the State of Palestine. This move reflects growing frustration with the absence of a viable political solution and a desire to pressure both sides toward negotiations. It also signals a shift in international attitudes as more countries seek to balance their support for Israel with calls for Palestinian rights and statehood. For Netanyahu, however, these diplomatic moves and mounting international pressure are seen not as steps toward peace, but as direct threats to Israel's security and sovereignty. He argues that halting military operations now would leave Israel vulnerable to future attacks and undermine its ability to defend its citizens. Despite growing calls for a ceasefire and negotiations, Netanyahu remains steadfast in his commitment to defeating Hamas and ensuring Israel's security, even as criticism from allies and adversaries alike intensifies. This unwavering stance helps explain why Netanyahu views recent recognitions of Palestinian statehood as attempts to force Israel's hand, rather than genuine efforts to achieve lasting peace in the region. Netanyahu's speech addressed Israeli soldiers and Palestinian civilians, including hostages. To troops, it was a rallying cry, affirming their mission and promising government support. He assured them their sacrifices were not in vain, despite international criticism. To Gazans, he issued an ultimatum, blaming Hamas for continued conflict. His attempt to communicate directly with civilians aimed to isolate militants. It was a symbolic gesture, asserting Israel's fight was with Hamas, not Palestinians. Netanyahu's speech drew criticism from hostage families who felt exploited for political theatre. They prioritized securing a deal for their loved ones over military victory. Families accused Netanyahu of using hostages' names for political gain without advancing their release. Their call for a ceasefire and hostage exchange often clashes with Netanyahu's military goals. The speech deepened the rift between the government and families, highlighting a painful division. The hostages' plight underscores the human cost of the conflict. Netanyahu's UN speech was delivered to a half-empty chamber, symbolizing Israel's isolation. Diplomatic walkouts and global protests reflect growing criticism of Israel's actions. Palestinian President Abbas condemned Israel's campaign, framing recognition as a victory for justice. Netanyahu faces legal challenges, compounding Israel's isolation. His speech doubled down on confrontation, despite diplomatic costs. The international community's support for Palestine highlights Israel's diplomatic challenges. Netanyahu's defiance underscores the profound challenge facing Israeli diplomacy. Amid international condemnation, Netanyahu highlighted his alliance with US President Trump. He praised Trump as a true friend, aligning with his hardline approach. However, US-Israel tensions exist over ceasefire negotiations and military goals. The upcoming Netanyahu-Trump meeting is crucial for determining the war's trajectory. The US holds significant leverage as Israel's primary backer. Netanyahu must navigate US demands while maintaining support for his military campaign. The US-Israel relationship remains a cornerstone of Israeli foreign policy. Netanyahu's UN speech was a declaration of defiance, asserting Israel's right to self-defense. The speech highlighted divisions in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For many, recognizing Palestine is vital for a two-state solution. Netanyahu sees it as a threat to security, perpetuating conflict. The speech raises questions about peace through strength or compromise. As Israel's isolation grows, the debate over the right path forward intensifies.